Well, I was immediately drawn in by the Bill O'Reilly quote from his meltdown. I fucking love that quote. I love that fucking thing. I quote it all the time, and most of the time people don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but it's just so funny to me.
And we will leave you with I can't do it. We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
Oh man, it's the best. The first time I ever heard it, I think my brother shared it on Facebook, and my stepdad fucking loves Bill O'Reilly, so he got all mad. He's like, "Let's record you on your worst day and see how you look." I was like, "Dude, get out of here. We're just having fun, man."
Today we're talking to Levi Harrison, a skilled artist, podcaster, musician, paint salesman, and veteran, among many other things. Currently, there's a lot of attention on the effects of military service on the psyche, but I've always been curious about the psyche that leads someone to commit to military service. I'd consider Levi, like myself, a creative, which probably isn't the traditional military archetype. I joined for a bunch of different reasons. I didn't have the money or the mindset to go to college. I've always been adventurous and enjoyed intense situations. My living situation at the time wasn't ideal, and I wanted to set myself up for success for the future with post-military benefits and professional experience. Although I didn't fit into the main category of people who joined, there's unexpectedly a significant number of people with a similar creative and life background. I met the most capable leaders, baddest motherfuckers, and biggest idiots while I was in. There were also a lot of guys that just could not get it together, couldn't stop getting in trouble, couldn't get away from their own demons. For some of these dudes, it was clearly from the effects of PTSD, but others definitely had issues before they joined. Well, I guess we all had issues before we joined, but significant issues. In this episode, we'll be using Levi's stories about ending up in Bahrain without a passport, and his experience with ship overboard procedures to discuss some of the darker incidents and people we've encountered while in the service.
All right, well, my name is Levi Harrison. I am from Nebraska originally, and I currently work retail, like hard home improvement style retail, mainly sell paint. That's what I do, which is kind of a far cry from what I did for when I was in the Navy. I was in the Navy from 2012 to 2014. I was stationed in Fallon, Nevada for 2 years, and then I was stationed in Whidbey Island, Washington for the remaining 2, and that's where I deployed from, was the squadron I was with up there. I was aviation structural mechanic, and so that's hydraulics, tires, bodywork, stuff like that, and I worked on F-18s all the way from like the old F-18A or the Alpha series all the way to the Gs, which is what I worked on when I was on deployment, which is the Growler, the electronic attack fighter plane. So, I when I was in Fallon, it's funny. So Top Gun, they shoot like in the original, the 80s. They were in Miramar, California. Well, that base has since been sold to, it's just a Marine base now. So the Navy moved the Top Gun school out into Nevada because the government owns a crazy amount of land out there. And that's where they do all the fighter pilot training for Top Gun qualification. And I worked on a squadron, like it's technically a detachment, which is just a piece of the actual whole unit that's sent elsewhere, but it's a permanent detachment. And so that's considered shore duty, what I was doing. So I was, that was my first command. So I was only there for 2 years instead of being for 3 or 4, which is typical. And so, that we supported directly the pilots who were qualifying for Top Gun class. So
then what is Top Gun exactly? Is that just like for the most elite Navy pilots, or
Yeah, so that's how in the movie that's kind of how it's promoted is you're the best of the best and you're going to go to Top Gun and they're going to make you even better kind of deal. What it is it's a major training evolution. So you get all these pilots who qualify to go to Top Gun. They go and then they, compete to be the top of their class. And then what they do is they take all the information that they learned and all the training that they did, and they take it back to their squadrons because they're not all from the same squadron. It's like one from all over the place. And so they take it back and then they help train the junior pilots. And then those junior pilots will eventually, take their place and go to Top Gun and then come back and train the junior pilots under them. So it's effectively a big training process, but they do learn a lot of really cool stuff. And I've seen the pilots when they come back and they're like, holy smokes, that was so much fun, we did this and this, and then sometimes they're like, I don't want to talk about it. Like a couple rough days, but so
for sure. So you did deploy, right? And
yeah.
then, do you have any stories from that or those experiences? I mean, I'm sure you have a million, but
So
any that stick out to you?
Well, so me getting on deployment is actually kind of a story in of it itself because I transferred right as my ship and my squadron were deploying that I was transferring to. And, I was like, cool, that's kind of interesting. I wonder how they're going to do that, how they're going to get me there. Well, I took leave 30 days. I drove to Nebraska and then from Nebraska all the way up to Whidbey Island, Washington. And they said, hey, we haven't heard from your squadron yet, so just hang out. And so I basically just mustered once a day with these people in personnel and for 2 weeks. And they're like, yep, all right, cool, we'll see you later. And that was it. I didn't have to because there's a school up there too. I didn't have to help clean or anything like that. They're like, yep, see ya. You go down there and you do whatever the heck you want. So for 2 weeks, I was kind of unsupervised. Which was cool. But then they're like, hey, we got your orders. You're ready to go. I was like, oh, snap. Here we go. So me and this other dude, he was in personnel, but he not from that one, but he was going to the same squadron I was going to. And so they just booked our flights at the same time and we went. Well, on the ferry over to the airport, the Seattle airport, he's like, hey, so yeah, you ready? Got everything? Like, yeah, I like flying. This is going to be a fun time. Yeah, whatever. He's like, you got your passport, right? I was like, no, dude, I've never had a passport. And he's like, we had to fly to Bahrain. And he's like, we are going out of the country. You should probably have a passport. And I was like, well, I don't. So I was like, they told me I didn't need one because I'm flying on orders and I have my, my ID, my military ID. So I should be fine. He's like, all right, well, I guess we'll see when we get there. So then now I'm nervous. I'm like, fuck, nobody told me, that I needed this. What? So
I know that feeling too of not having what you need when you're about to transport somewhere or having that feeling of not having it.
Yeah. Well, and then also I don't know the possibilities of what's going on. This dude works in personnel and sends people places all the time. He knows what's going on. I've never done this before. So we get to London. We have a 3 or 4 hour layover in London, just hanging out in the airport. We get onto I can't remember what the company is that we flew to Bahrain with, but getting to London was fine. No passport asked for. I was like, cool. But then as soon as we were getting into the plane to go to Bahrain, he's like, hey, I'm going to go ahead of you and then I'll bring you up because I'm going to explain to the lady the situation. He's like, just get your orders out and your ID ready. I was like, all right, cool. So he goes up and then a little bit later they motion to me and I'm like, all right, cool. I follow him and, give the lady my orders. Well, my orders didn't say that I was going to the ship. They said I was going to my squadron number. So there's no real actual thing that's connecting me to going to Bahrain for whatever reason. They didn't print the ones they should have printed, or I don't know how that worked, but she was like, nothing here says anything about Bahrain. And my dude was like, well, the ship is going to be in Bahrain and we're going to the squadron that's on the ship. So, kind of connect the dots. Right. And so we get on, they let us on the plane and we go and fly to Bahrain. We get off the plane, and it is like almost midnight there, and we're going through customs, and he's like, same deal, I'm gonna go first, and then you follow me. I was like, all right, cool. Well, this time it was a little less friendly, and they were a little more like, dude, you like, what are you, Jason Bourne? Like, you can't just be flying around without a passport. Like,
and it was
so
an American. Was it Americans doing the custom checks, or was it?
No.
Okay.
It was locals. Yeah. So they kind of section us off, and they take us over like this guy in a window. It was like a DMV window kind of thing, and he's asking us all these questions, and I'm letting this dude handle it because he actually just got done being stationed in Bahrain, luckily enough for me. And so, like, they're talking about sending me back, and I'm like, I don't know how you're going to do that. Like, I don't, I'm not paying however much it is to buy a ticket back to America. And then also, I don't have a passport, so are they even going to let me back in? All these things flying through my head, and I have no idea what's going on because I was just 20 at the time, so I'm like still, green behind the gills kind of thing. And he's like, all right, well, you need to call this person on base to the person behind the window. And so they do, and they call and gets me cleared, basically, kind of like move some stuff around. They're like, yeah, they're good to go. And so I kind of snuck into Bahrain without a passport or anything. But like, if that dude wasn't there, I would have not handled that situation. Like, I would have been in London still like confused out of my mind. And what's even funnier is there was 2 military looking dudes on our flight to Bahrain that we ran into after the fact, and it turned out to be my new executive officer, second in command of my squadron,
right,
and another officer in my squadron. I was like, fuck, these dudes probably could have handled that situation too, but I didn't know them yet,
right. And then you probably had concerns about. You probably had concerns about. Were you concerned about actually leaving the country then too, since you didn't have a passport, like going through the same crap?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with. I thought I was good, and everybody up to this point was like, yeah, all you need is your military ID and your orders, and you're good. But then once that lady made that comment about, well, his orders doesn't say anything about Bahrain, it just says VAQ 137. I was like, oh, shit. Like, what do I do? Yeah, I'm just thankful that dude was there with me because like I said, I would not have been able to handle that, like, at all. I'd have been like, I need an attorney. I don't know my rights here. Can somebody help me? Yeah. My phone's not working. Please send help. Yeah. So that was a kind of a shit show. But one of the funniest moments I think of that whole deployment was on Navy ships, there are shipboard like closed circuit television. So the MWR, which is the Morale Welfare Center, like they put on movies, and they have like a certain movie list that they put on throughout the whole ship. Everybody's watching the same movies. Like, there's 3 movie channels. And then there's the shipboard plaque, which is like the flight deck camera. Like, you get to watch takeoff and landing if you're in your shop or whatever you're doing. You can watch that. A lot of times we just watch it to know when planes were coming back, so we could like get our shit ready if we needed to do anything on them. And then there was a couple other channels. I think we got the Armed Forces Network like every now and then I think sports were going on, so we got some of the Armed Forces sports networks that would ship out. Like, so one night we are in the shop. We had everything done. We're just hanging out, and they call a man overboard. And when that happens, like, usually it's just a drill. So everybody who works in that work center has to come out of bed, come down, and, report. And then everybody calls their whole shop's names up. And then the whole ship musters within, 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so, which is like 5,000 people. So sometimes it takes a little bit longer. Well, we watched the flight deck camera, and they sent up a helicopter, which means somebody actually fell off because they're sending, search and rescue, the rescue swimmers out.
Right.
and we're watching it, and the helicopter takes off, and you can see him lower down, like they zoom in, and you can see a guy in the water, and you see the guy lower down on the rope or whatever, and the guy's like trying to swim away from him, and we're like, what the heck is going on?
No.
And so he's
awesome.
like fighting the dude to get back into the, to pull him up. And the rescue swimmer had to knock him out to pull him up because he was fighting him so much. Yeah. So what had happened?
What did he do? Hit him over the head or something?
Yeah, he just punched him in the face. Like, it didn't take much apparently. But so what had happened was that this guy was in restriction, which meant he was, awaiting a, military legal something. Like, so he did something illegal, and he was going to get, reprimanded in one way or the other. Well, apparently he was in restriction and then fucked up even worse. So basically, whenever the next port call was, he was getting flown home, and he was like getting processed through captain's mast or something, like maybe worse. I never found out specifically what, but he went out to the smoke pit because every night after the restriction people muster with the military police, the Navy police guys, they all get a smoke break, one smoke break. And while they were out, because all the smoking sections in the ship are outboard, and they're, where open water would be because you can't be smoking in closed areas, he took his boots off and took something like, I think his belt, and then just jumped off. And this was probably maybe close to midnight.
Oh my God.
In the middle of the Arabian Gulf. And this guy was like, I'm going to swim the fuck out of here. Like, I don't know what his thought process was, but so he jumped off of the fucking ship into the black water and couldn't see nothing. And somehow they found him really quick, but I was just like, holy shit. Like, I didn't understand what kind of thought process that guy had to have been going through, because
there's no
Arabian Gulf is not a small body of water. Like, you're going to exhaust yourself and then you're going to drown. Like, that's what's going to happen. Like, you're not going to get to anywhere. Like, I couldn't even see other lights from boats where we were at that time. So
Jesus.
Yeah.
We used to call that extra duty. Maybe the Navy calls it that too. But if someone's like fucked up and they're probably gonna get kicked out of the military, they used to put them on extra duty. And they used to give them, so they'd have the normal work day, which was usually ended at 5, and then they would stay later, depending on the E6 or above who is in charge of extra duty that night, and they would just mop and clean shit. And I remember I was a corporal shortly before I got out, and they put me in charge of extra duty one night, and there was this dude, Rogers, that everybody fucking hated. He was a kind of a big guy. He really did look like Pyle from Full Metal Jacket.
Oh, yeah. Shit.
He's fat. He was a piece of shit. He was a big time liar. He somehow got out of the deployment, probably by lying about something, or I don't even know. But I had an incident with him, and I was also kind of a fresh leader, so I didn't really. It was difficult for me to navigate that situation, dealing with this guy who was like difficult to deal with. It was difficult for me to deal with him in a professional manner, because now I was his leader.
Yeah.
I couldn't just be. I had to really figure out how to communicate with him. If I was a peer, I could just call him a piece of shit and all this other stuff. But as a leader, I guess I could do that to a certain extent. But anyways, I figured that out. But a few years later, he's out of the military, and the fucking guy was dating somebody. When he was in the military, he was dating this girl who was also in the army. But a few years later, I guess they get married, and he commits a murder-suicide, and kills her and then kills himself somewhere in New York State. And so he was just, I guess I think of that because there's just some fucked up ass people in the military, and like some guys, some of those guys that just can't figure it out. Some of them are just fucked up.
Yeah.
I'm sure you too, but
yeah. I'm sure you noticed this, like a large portion, and I noticed this about like some of the higher ups too, but a large portion of the people I think, join the military because they wanted to be in control of stuff and have people not like disrespect them because of whatever rank they were. Like, it was definitely like those people who like would try to start fights, but then be like, "What are you gonna do? Hit me? You're gonna get in trouble, bro." Like those kinds of fucking people. And like, you're just like, I know what you're about, dude. Like, you're just hiding behind your rank basically at this point.
Yep.
Dude, I worked with this fucked up guy when I was in Nevada. So similar story. He met this girl. She was fresh to our squadron. She came in pregnant and married to, or not married, but like engaged to a kid from back home. And I guess on leave in one of her schools, she ended up getting pregnant, allegedly. I still don't think it was ever like an actual thing, but whatever happened, she didn't end up having the baby. Nobody knows what happened specifically. But after that happened, her and this dude, who had only known each other for a month, decided to get married while in the same squadron.
Oh my God, so military.
Which is, yeah. And they even like routed a chit like all the way up, and everybody said no, all the way up until our skipper. And our skipper was like, "Yeah, looks good. Fucking do it." And so they ended up getting married, and like shortly thereafter, they were in base housing, and they got they had a dog, and then they got kittens from one of the other ladies in base housing. And like, she had a litter of kittens, and she was just giving them out. She's like, "Hey, here's, I don't want to have all these fucking cats." And apparently they had like worms, and that was the only issue. Like, you got to get that fixed, and then
just give them some medication and
simple as that, right? That's what I thought. Well, like a week or so later, this dude, is talking about how his cat died, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Like, must have got sick or whatever. Well, one of our coworkers was talking to us after work one day. He's like, "Yeah, you know how homeboy's cat died?" I'm like, "Yeah, he said he got sick or something. Like, it's a baby cat. I'm not surprised." He's like, "No, he put it down." I was like, "For what?"
Jesus.
He's like, "That's not even the weirdest part. How he put it down is the worst part." And I was like, "Oh my God, what did he do?" So he suffocated this cat with his hands.
Are you fucking kidding me? Holy
no.
shit.
Yeah, so he did that. And we were like, did he say why? Like, first of all, why is he just telling you this? Well, obviously he's crazy. But secondly, like, why did he put it down? Well, he said it was sick, and then it was meowing all the time. I was like, dude, it is a kitten that was just separated from its mom, and it's got worms, which is like a $15 medication that you get at Walmart. Like, I was like, holy shit. God. Well, fast forward a little while later, their dog ended up dying, and I was like, "Oh shit, what happened to your dog, dude?" He's like, "Well, they're spraying for pests in base housing," and a couple of days later, and I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, well that fucking sucks. Sorry about it." And then I was like, "Wait a minute, how come nobody else's dog is dead?"
Right.
And I was like, "Oh my God, I don't even know what happened. I never asked, but it like freaked me out because I was like, oh, like I just got this weird feeling, like,
right,
what the fuck?" And then like shortly thereafter, Halloween was coming around. I was like, dude, they should make a pet cemetery fucking display at their house for Halloween. Oh man. Yeah. I was like, dude. And then they got divorced like right after I left there. Like, I'm like, wow, that's weird that didn't work out. Well, super shocked.
This is a very cynical thing for me to say, but there's only one step left in this process now after the divorce. So, given the history, one of them's going to die. But
yeah, that's true. I'm glad that maybe she escaped. Maybe she got lucky.
That's a good point.
I didn't even think about it like that.
Yeah, man. I think we're at 50 minutes, so we're definitely good. This has been awesome. Do you have any pictures or anything that you can send me that I can kind of put up if you're comfortable with that? If not of yourself, which would be ideal, but of just like, of your deployment or of the ship or of your artwork or any of that.
Sure. I can send you some stuff.
Awesome, man. That sounds good.
All right. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
For sure. It was great having you on. Once again, the gentleman we chatted with today was Levi Harrison. He has 2 podcasts, Nowhere in the Middle and Westbind. And he also has a Facebook and Instagram for his art. His Facebook is Harrison Art Design, and his Instagram is Art Under Fire. And his art is fucking sick. So everybody should check that out. Other than that, if you're digging this podcast, give it a good old-fashioned review and rating. Stay chaotic, and then I'll see you next time.